So you already know what this is about. That's probably why you're here. You've probably also seen the video released yesterday or 2 days ago, depending on when this video goes up, about the race at Bearfield. Let's quickly clear some things up about that. Yes, the whole concept of that video was conceived about 5 minutes after I woke up on the Monday I left for Chicago. It was quite last minute deciding to do that, though the music choice for the intro was not decided until the train somewhere between Didcot and Reading. There's a slight bit of debate over what exactly to use for it, but Super Driver was appropriate for several reasons. If anything, just simply the name. Like, it just fits with the task at hand. The rest of the music was chosen when I edited it this week. Though, as Jim has already pointed out in the last video's comments, there is a particular reason for the last piece, and even the second last piece, as I pointed out in response. Why do that at all? It's probably because I didn't... Basically, I have more to say than a video to cover it with, and I don't know, nice quick highlights could be fun. Okay, frankly, it was just fun, so that's why I did it. But not very informative. It gives you a rough idea of what happened, but not exactly the full story, and some people might be interested in that, and hence why I'm doing this right now. I'm taking my Saturday afternoon to do that. So, you're here to hear the stories. Obviously, this isn't the full story. I don't think anyone has the full story of what the hell happened last weekend. It's not really possible for everyone to have the same story, which is cool. So I'll try not to go over too much the same ground, because I imagine people watching this have also probably watched Power's video, probably will also watch Jim's video, because I believe he's going to do something similar. So I don't want to overlap too much of what they have to say, which I believe was what Powers was attempting in his video as well, but he did cover a lot of it anyway, so we'll try not to cover the same ground. One difference between me and Powers is that Powers arrived Friday afternoon in Fort Wayne. I arrived Monday night with Potato. So at least we have the start of the story is a little bit different. The fact that, I spent basically a week in Indiana. Place I've never been in the Midwest. Chicago is now the furthest west I've ever been, using London as the midpoint of the world, which people seem to do for some reason. But I'm not going to argue with that. It's convenient for me anyway, considering I started off from London Gatwick, and flew to Chicago. Surprisingly straightforward trip. I've had journeys to fucking Denmark that have been more complicated than this. Shockingly straightforward journey. Get train, one change, you're in Gatwick, direct flight to Chicago, get picked up to Chicago, drive from Fort Wayne. That's it. Not really complicated, just long, but not complicated. If I was interested, I flew with Norwegian, and I highly recommend that. If you fly low fare anyway, Norwegian basically are your long haul low fare. The short haul is not low fare enough for me. Some routes seem alrightly priced. Some are just like normal, what quote unquote flag carriers call low fare. It's not low fare. If I can't fly to the other side of Europe for pocket change, then it's not low fare by my standards. Ryanair has really warped my perception of how much I should pay for flights. But at least Norwegian seem to match that with long haul. And, it's not bad at all. It's just a common thing you get when you tell people about low fare airlines, or they see them, is that they think, oh, you're just going to get treated like shite. That's not how it works. Okay? The service I got was equivalent to the standard of service that I would get on Delta or Aer Lingus, two other airlines I've flown long haul with. Aer Lingus are renowned for their service. Right? I'm not going to argue with that. They're damn good. But I didn't practically notice any much difference in the quality. It was fine. It was fine. It was I had no problems at all. They even let my questionable bag go in as hand luggage in Gatwick. They did weigh it in Chicago on the way back, but by some fluke it was 7 kilos and I had 10, so I was like, get fucked. I get to abuse your system once more. But I don't know. You could argue that 25 quid is a bit expensive to pay for dinner, but I would argue that the fare is about £200 less than anyone else has, so in the end you're still 150 up. So, it's this. To be fair, I actually don't have much arguments to how you had with Norwegian's low fare model. It's not as manipulative or just shady and sketchy as Ryanair's. It's probably closer to EasyJet's. way of doing low fares, and that yeah, if you want stuff, you got to pay for it, but it's not like Ryanair, where you literally have to pay for every single individual thing in your entire flight. It hasn't gone that bad, and they're not that restrictive. So frankly, if it's convenient in the future, I'm flying long haul with them, because it's cheaper and just gives me exactly what I want per plane. I don't expect to have a spa trip in the flight. I just expect to get from A to B in as quickly and convenient manner as possible, and quite good levels of comfort on long haul. I will push the boat out for long haul. I may actually pay for dinner. To be fair, that's my standard of luxury on an airplane nowadays. So I'm pretty easy to keep happy. Anyway, I'm spending way too long on this part, but I don't know. I've always been in defense of low fare airlines. I'll even fucking defend Ryanair for a lot of things. Not all things. They do a lot of shady, bad stuff, but I'm financially not in a position to object to a lot of it. Yeah, so Norwegian, very much recommended. I would definitely look into them if you want long haul to the US. Apparently they even fly to Singapore, and I think they fly to Singapore for about 300 quid one way, which is damn good for a flight to Singapore, so highly recommend that. They also use 787s. Which is, again, a thing people misconcept with low-fare airlines. I think you're flying in rust buckets. No. Low-fare airlines only work because they fly the latest and greatest. It's a weird thing how that works, but that's how it works in aviation. So you're never going to have a bad plane, really, on a low-fare airline. And 787 isn't a bad plane at all. It's really nice, but first time flying in them. Bigger than I was expecting, because I always underestimate the size of the 787, because it just looks like a 737 from a distance, but then obviously when you put the two together, no, that's way bigger. It's a wide body plane, you idiot. Yeah, it's really, I had aisle seats both ways, and yeah, that was fine. I could still even vaguely see out, because the windows actually are noticeably bigger. Entertainment, while lacking in content, was a coherent, nice system. Also had a USB charger as well, so your phone got charged, which is nice. Dinner was standard, and plane was slightly quieter than usual. It's not as loud as the 767, which Delta fly, because Delta fly old rust buckets of planes. So, but I was expecting maybe a bit quieter. I don't know. I'm not expecting too much. But anyway, that's the flight. I spent way too long on that, but I like my flying. So we'll happily talk about that for days. As I said, we flew into Chicago, which first time anywhere near Chicago, and it's fucking huge. I've been told before that it's huge. I've been given examples of how it's huge. Then I actually got to see it, and it's huge. It's just huge. Like, the city just keeps going and going and going and going. Like, it's so impressive because, that part of the world is just completely flat. Yet all you can see is cities. Like, where's the optical illusion here? Where does the city end? It doesn't. It just keeps going. Just like the south coast of Lake Michigan is just a city. Or it appears to be. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on the geography of the area. I just, passed through it a little bit. But, yeah. It's big. Yeah. Arrived at Chicago, got picked up by Potato. I was the first time meeting him. He's cool. Yeah, so I met with him, and that went shockingly well. Immigration took little to no time. I think it was less than 40 minutes from when the gate, we arrived in the gate, to meeting Potato in the car park, which is also conveniently located. Sometimes you get these car parks 6 miles away from the terminal. No, with Terminal 5, you the little short-term car park is literally 30-second walk. So yeah, that was really convenient. So we drove off then towards Fort Wayne, which again went surprisingly smoothly. Chicago traffic was actually moving. Maybe it was just the time of day or whatever, but it was moving. And we cleared Chicago really quickly and just kept motoring then through Illinois to Indiana. Didn't appreciate in the dark, but would appreciate on the way home, is how flat they are. As I mentioned, they're just really flat. As always comes up whenever I go to a flat place, is how flat it is. And people from flat places are probably, bored of people coming from other places and saying, fuck, this is flat. I come from the west of Ireland. There is not even remotely flat in the west of Ireland. Not even close. The concept of being able to stand in a place and not see a hill is completely foreign to me because for the first 18 years of my life, no matter where I looked, there was a hill somewhere. There was a hill. So the fact that I'm able to stand in a place and not see a hill, that's weird. It still freaks me out. You know? It's weird. Anyway, we got to Fort Wayne then. Late that night, went to Jim's house. And then, due to reasons that were not exactly made clear, but very generously, Jim's mother paid to put us up in a hotel for the week, for the three of us, and then Powers joined on Friday night, which incredibly generous. And then we get to the hotel, and it's stocked with like food and drinks and stuff like that. It's like, that's just ridiculously generous. You know, I'll talk about a bit more in a little bit, but the welcome and reception we had and the way we were treated was just fantastic, really. It was way more than I would ever have expected, you know. Even like the fact that we're put up in a hotel is incredible. You know, I was expecting a floor for the week. I have spent race week sleeping on garage floors, you know, because that's just what you do. And then to be put up in a decent hotel for a week, you know, that's with a fridge stocked with food and drink, way more than we ever would need, but it's just there if you want it, and make just the effort that she went through to make sure. It's just wonderful. It's really generous, incredibly generous. Yeah. So we're staying in Fort Wayne then, as I said, which, yeah, it's, I don't know if this is a typical thing with a lot of like mid-sized US cities, but they all look the same. I know I have an example of about 2, but they seem to all look the same. I don't know. Like, I think it's the grid thing that's weirding me out, because grids don't really exist in much of Europe, at least not on the scale that they do in a lot of US cities. And this just sort of the space as well. Everything seems to be so spread out and wide and big. Just everything's big. It's like Europe is on like 0.8 scale if US is 1. Just, I don't know. It's just quite foreign. It's a hard thing to describe, and I don't think it is a complaint. It's not a complaint at all. It's just sort of an observation, because there's nothing really right or wrong with either way. It's not the advantages, not the disadvantages, but it's pedantic and not worth arguing over. Because there's nothing to argue over here. It just is how it is. It's just different, and I always like take a few days to get around that in my head whenever I go to the US. It's just a different style of how things are laid out. Basically, it seems that everything in the US takes up twice the land area of its equivalent in Europe. It seems, at least in the UK, but the UK is really dense. You know, we fit 60 million people on this little island, which is a little island in the grand scheme of things for 60 million people. So yeah. Also, something that could be a legitimate argument is how you all need roundabouts. Just saying. Traffic lights are like the bane of everyone's existence. You all need roundabouts. Yeah, not a whole lot to say about the first few days. Not that there's anything wrong about that, really. Because it was just like just basically a nice holiday with friends, basically. So we did a few errands for the car, a few little checks, a few little fixing up things. Went out hunting for parts and whatever that we would need. We had a movie night. Me and James went to a movie night in his uni, which again was interesting, just to sort of have a brief look at his campus. Extreme contrast to my campus, but either the universities in Oxford can't really be used as an example of a conventional university. It reminds me a lot more of the University of Limerick, back where I'm from, in the style of campus. Sort of the large, nice, I describe just sort of large generic campus, which is nice. So I sometimes wonder what it would be like to actually go to a uni like that, you know, because essentially my campus is size-wise, it's a glorified high school campus, basically. But then to have the proper grand sort of mini town university campus, I always wonder what that would be like. Probably quite cool, because I always liked just being around the University of Limerick home. Like, I'm never a student there, but just being around it was kind of cool. So I get the same impression from Jim's uni as well. It was nice. Also incredibly jealous of their generous parking. It's so nice. We don't have that in Oxford. We don't have any parking in general in Oxford. driving is a menace. Just painful. And it's so nice there. Anyway, again, we're 17 minutes into it, so we haven't even got to the race, so I need to get a move on. So yes, Magnus arrived on a Wednesday or Thursday? Possibly Wednesday? Maybe Thursday? I've already forgotten when Magnus arrived, really. It's unfortunate. I think it was Wednesday. Yeah, well, no, it was Wednesday. I'm getting things straight in my head. Anyway, Magnus arrived on Wednesday. Met up with him. Then on Wednesday, had some food, tried to hack the local airport, but the usual crap. Then Powers arrived on Friday when we were at the track, because we brought the car to the track on Wednesday, so I left it there on Thursday. Went to get it on Friday to get it through tech, as well as decorate it, which is an extremely important job, of course. Has to be decorated. Yes, we actually in the end spent more time decorating the car than we did fixing the brakes. One of those is more important than the other, and I think we'll all agree it's decorating. Magnus arrived then and also set up his stream thing, which was really cool. How well that worked. I don't know if I was skeptical. I really hadn't factored in that it would really be a thing. So it's not like I expected it not to work, because I'd seen the testing that had been done with it, and I was like, yeah, this should work. But I still never really could believe that it could be what the streaming became. Because it really made the race in a lot of ways. Like, don't get me wrong, it would have been an incredible event and experience without the stream. But the fact that the stream was there was just like, it made it way better than anyone could have even thought it could be. Like, I thought it was like one of the most incredibly cool things I've seen at a racetrack. To like be able to sit in the pits and basically be able to actually chat with people, wherever they are in the world, and they can basically see the same thing I'm seeing. Yes, they are seeing about a minute in the past of what I'm seeing at trackside, but like, we can legitimately have a conversation about what's happening at a track. It's also cool then to essentially use them as our way of communicating with the drivers. They'd pass on what they saw from inside the car, which is incredibly useful. We did get a little bit too dependent on it then for when the stream broke later, and we established that we'd actually no actual way, apart from the stream, of the driver telling the pits that he was about to pit, which began to catch us out. But to be fair, we were running such a schedule that we always really didn't know the time of when the car was coming in, except for when it broke, and the times. Say that I had an emergency stop because of a puncture, the stream delay was too great anyway, that by the time the stream saw it, the car was in the pits anyway. So yeah, it worked well. We were generally quite good in the pits. So yeah, streaming worked incredibly well. Anyway, Friday night then, for some fun, we went to a karting place and did some karting. Only reason noting here is because Potato was incredibly OP, as he is, as you'd expect, because he races karts anyway. Unlike the rest of us idiots who just fuck about, really, in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, so he did went there, nearly took the track record, the usual crap you do. It was great fun. It was a good start anyway for the weekend, was to go have a bit of karting fun. Then the next morning we arrived at the track, and I think we got there at 8 a.m, which was easily the earliest we've essentially made any move the whole week. Yeah, some days we were up earlier, but we usually wouldn't even think about leaving the hotel room until like 10 or 11 at earliest, because lazy teenagers and all that. None of us actually are teenagers. I'm the youngest, like 20, but you wouldn't be able to tell that from the way we behaved with our sleeping patterns, because they're all over the shop. Again, Potato has a legitimate reason for being over the shop, and Jimson and I are students, so I guess that's our reason. Maybe. We'll see. So anyway, we arrived at the track the night before. We'd gone and gotten some track supplies, such as we got a fuel can, got some tools for sorting out the brakes, as Paris described in his video about our original plan to basically cut and shut the pipe. We found that wasn't really possible with where it is. Again, wonderful planning by us. That we don't fully diagnose the problem, until it's too late to do anything proper about it. Even though I'm not sure, even given the week, if we could have done much more than what we did, or even if it would be worth it. I think our inherent laziness would just overcome it at that point and just be like, nah, we'll do what we did in the end. Which I was sort of skeptical of its possibility of working as well as it did. But to be fair, really good effort by Brian Curtin Powers to do that. As it was a bastard of a job. Not a pleasant thing to do at all. Everyone getting covered in brake fluid, as you do. Everyone, including me. Because I was too busy making sure the rest of the car was alright and just generally standing about. Because the three of them they had a plan, they knew what to do, and they were getting on with it. Magnet was setting up the stream, and Potato and Jim went and did the actual bureaucratic crap with driver meetings and things like that. Basically all the stuff that we should all be doing at this point, but our car's not yet on the grid because it doesn't have any brakes. Really good fix. I think it was one of the best bodges I've ever seen of how well it worked. Basically just cutting off the rear brake line and basically crimping it and folding it over and flexing the shit out of it to stop it and just plug it. I'm shocked how well it worked. It worked really well, and yes, we only had 3 brakes then for the rest of the race, but to be honest, we didn't use brakes much. We knew we weren't using brakes much, which is why this was even a possibility to do. But when I needed brakes, it worked, so I've no complaints. I think I locked it up twice as well. So if you if you can lock up the wheels, you got enough brakes. It's fine. So anyway, so at this time, Potato's come back from the drivers' meeting, and Jim's has gone straight to the tower from the drivers' meeting because they need to basically sort out their live timing. Jim's being the timing scoring official for Bearfield, though obviously couldn't really do that for this race because he was racing it. But they did take the opportunity to use him before the race started because they had a big fuck up with timing, which I think I might get into a little later, but I have words to be said about that whole situation at the start. But yeah, it had us delayed by about an hour and a half, hour 3/4 from when we were supposed to start the race. I brought the car out onto the grid quite deliberately because in total driving experience, I have by far the least in an actual car of any kind compared to anyone else on the team. They all own cars. I own a small motorbike. That's relatively new for me as well. I got my driver's license last month. Yes, I've driven more than obviously since last month. But the last year, the only driving I've done has been, driving to get my license. In this race, I probably have driven more left-hand drive this year than right-hand drive. So yeah, so I deliberately made sure that I would at least have a little bit of experience in the left-hand drive before we got going into the race, because I'll be hurled in as the third driver. So the race will be well underway, and I have to now drive a car I've never driven before on the side of the car that I've never driven before. Went surprisingly well. Shockingly well. It can be, you sort of think it's much more of a thing to adapt to than it is. But literally I was about 20 meters down from our pit box and it's like, yep, this is completely natural to me. Just shifting with the right hand to the left. You won't think it, but you are actually naturally ambidextrous with that. Unless it's just my family, because my father has always had the same experience driving left-hand drive cars, that it's just completely natural to shift with your right hand if you can do it with your left. And I'm assuming it works vice versa. So if it ever goes to a left-hand driving country where you need to shift with your left hand, don't fear. It'll probably be far more natural than you think it will be. That being said, I did miss a few shifts during the course of the events, but I think that's just me rather than the side of the car I'm on, to be honest. So that was fine. Yeah, I brought it to the grid and then fixed the transponder onto it, which it got working on the third attempt. We'll say that it got working on the third attempt. Also got to warm it up, which it was quite funny. On Friday when we were running the car a little to warm it up and that, and I think I made a few heads turns when I brought it up to about 5,000. Bit too used to having race cars a little, where idling does improve shit. You need to rev it to see how it goes, basically. It wasn't abusive, it wasn't the sharp revs or anything like that, because I know better than that. But my standards of what I usually work to, this was quite abusive on engines in general by the fact that we just start them straight up. But it is a street car, it takes that. Our race engines, we have a whole procedure for starting the engine to be as nice as possible to it, which it's just not really necessary at all with a street car like this, because a car was a weird thing. It was kind of a race car, but not a race car. Like, we were racing it. In a lot of ways, you have to treat it like a race car, but it's still a street car. It's designed to do many thousands of miles, under 3,000 RPM and not complain at all. It's designed to start up every time. It's a Honda, so it won't bloody blow up. So there was aspects where we could sort of be a bit more abusive than I normally would be with a race car, but there's no problem at all with that, really, because it's still a street car. We may have taken out the windows and the lights, but it's still a street car. Anyway, where have I got to now at this point? So that brings us up to the green flag. Race starts, gets underway. Instantly, it starts on the half mile. Was that a German magnet or Jim's stint where it switched to the 3/8? Well, it was definitely switched to the 3/8 for my stint, and to the end, it never switched back. Which it may seem incredibly stupid on paper when you see the idea, because they plan to, and said in the meeting that the track layout will switch during the race. When you see something like that, you think, oh, for fuck's sake, what is this crap? And that was my initial reaction, was, oh, for fuck's sake, what is this crap? But after seeing it done, I'm fully on board with it. It was actually an incredibly sensible thing, and probably the most sensible bit of organisation of this entire race. Because they started on the half mile, basically they allowed the whole grid, which is quite densely packed up. They're starting three wide, and like fuck knows how many rows. There's like 90 cars starting from a standing start on a grid. And what the half mile allowed them to do was, by running the first half hour or so on that, if not more, I forget exactly. But by doing that, they actually allowed the entire field to spread out, get a hold of themselves, give them plenty of space to sort themselves out. And then, when the speeds began to pick up because the field had begun to spread out, they then switched them to the 3/8 mile to keep the speeds under control. Because I think in general this race ended up being a lot faster than what the organisers anticipated. Because the organisers anticipated that maybe at about midnight you might get up to 40 miles an hour. Not a chance. Like, our slow pace was 40 miles an hour. That was our minimum speed, at least my stints, was 40 miles an hour. And that was if you're getting held up on the top of a corner. The guys are trying. I don't even know what speeds they were getting up to. I say if some of them got a clear run, they're possibly getting up to near 100 mile an hour at the end of the straight. If they're getting a clear run, probably more typically the fast guys will get up to about 90 into the corners, entering the corners. Obviously slower through the corners, because no one could take those corners flat in normal street cars. Anyway, so the race was a lot faster than they anticipated it being. With that, we got through quite cleanly. Jim's was quite remarkably sensible. Having seen what I did in my first stint, I'm very glad that Jim started and not me, because he actually drove like he owned the car, which makes sense because he owns the car. But no, that was great, because we only had a little bit of damage. To be fair, the only damage, I would argue that all the damage we got was not any of our fault. Like, wasn't any of us doing anything stupid, which is good effort for the team. Yeah, we got sideswiped by that bastard Nova in Jim's first stint, which took away our left wing mirror, which is rather inconvenient, because having a driver's side mirror is useful for many things. So that was going to be a fun introduction for us all, because we wouldn't get the mirrors fixed until our second stints. So I think we all had one stint of no mirror, which was fun. I can tell you that. Yeah, it was fun. So anyway, this brings us up to the third stint, which is my first stint. Jimson Magnet having driven around for just over an hour. at this point, and I get into the car. So, people who know me in real life will know that I don't really get nervous for things. I'm like remarkably calm. Like, I don't lose my shit over things. Like nobody tests or exams. Things that people usually panic about. I don't panic at all. Deadlines and the sort. Yeah, I don't panic. I don't panic about anything really. It's not conventional like that. The things I panic about are quite different, which is a whole different story in itself. And getting into the car, waiting for the stint to happen, I wasn't really nervous at all until I got to pit exit in Florida, at which point my heart lost it. Because it's like, holy shit, you're actually about to do this. And I shouted, as was quite entertaining to the stream, I shouted, "This is where I die," when joining the track, which went a lot smoother than I thought it would. Especially when you don't have a left mirror trying to join on the right side of the track into a whole pack of cars that are screaming by way faster than you thought they ever would be going. And so you see the numbers of the speeds that's been done. You think, that ain't fast at all. I go faster on the highway, and you do go faster on the highway. But then when you get into the track, you get on the track and into the pack, just 50 miles an hour is fucking fast when you're in close quarters like that. Not to mind whatever the hell I was doing in my first stint. I was going through the corners at just above 50, getting to 60 in the straight, because I was driving a bit like a lunatic for the first bits, and not really intentionally. I didn't go into that stint going, I'm going to rip everything up. I went into that stint thinking, right, let's take it easy, let's see how things are. I talked to James when he came out to the car after his stint. He talked about, just run the high line, which I did. Run the high line, you'll find some guys to follow, run around with them. Unfortunately, I think I ended up passing every person I was supposed to follow, and just kept moving. And it would take me that stint and the next stint before I would finally basically get the self-control not to drive like an idiot. Fortunately, nothing bad happened. I didn't completely lose my shit. I wasn't like going up and down the track, flailing it through gaps that don't exist and things like that, like some of the guys were. I never got to that point, fortunately. If I did, I would have very much deserved a beating. But I didn't. I kept reasonably sane but aggressive. Sane but aggressive. Did that really work? I'm not sure if it does work. So I did watch this my first two stints back the night after the race, because they're the only two I think that are available to watch at the moment after the fact. And I can see a few things that may need clearing up. Mark was completely accurate when he said that I was having the time of my life. I really was. And at times I came across as far more nervous than I was. I was saying stuff, but it wasn't really relating to entirely how I was feeling in a weird way. It was it came off stronger than I thought it would, mainly because I had to shout to get anything across. To be heard on the microphone, I would have to shout. So it made it feel like I was a lot more desperate and panicky than I actually was. I wasn't really. After a few laps, I saw the nerves began to die down a little. There was a few sort of Code Brown moments, but to be fair, my stint they weren't actually too extreme. I just got on with it. It was usually how those things work. The likes of having to dodge spinning cars or stopped cars, nearly getting wrecked, nearly getting pinned. Generally for me, they happen too quickly for me to comprehend that they've happened. I just instinctively dodge out of the way, drive on, and that's that. I'm kind of too busy to ponder on them and sort of think about, oh shit, what was that? That was just like, well, I need to get on with it. I need to move on. There's shit to be done here. So remarkably calm throughout it, while in the car. So just getting on with it. The first stint was intense though, and the last stint, they were completely chilled and calm, whatever. But the first stint, not like, as I say, it wasn't as bad as it came across as. It wasn't as bad as you think it would be, but you gotta be sharp, you gotta pay attention and all that. But as I said, the incidents around me weren't really affecting me or making me scared or nervous or anything like that. Even watching a car roll over. it's like had remarkably little effect on me. Basically, I just saw a car roll over and I just came and said, "That's a red flag," sort of nearly without empathy at the time until we get to, until we stop up for that red flag. Obviously, at that point, a little bit more reflection, and if anything, you're just trying to pass the time as you're just sitting there on the track waiting for something to happen, basically. So anyway, so continuing on with sort of the clarifications part of this. A lot was made and it's become sort of infamous now about my pointing while I was driving. I don't know how much Yole was just having fun or how much she was genuinely afraid of my driving, but I don't know, I think it makes it much better if I say that's how I naturally drive, because I only got a full license last month. I haven't driven anything on my full license on my own. I don't have a car. I've never had a car. So I've always driven with someone else in the passenger seat. Mostly it's my father, driving instructors, whatever. But there's always been someone in the passenger seat. I've never driven a car on my own. That race is actually the first time I've driven a car on my own. So when you're doing this, basically you just end up talking a lot. Especially because a lot of driving on roads is just terribly boring. So basically for me, I need to just pass the time, really. Especially when I go off on long drives with my father. Because it was a thing we used to do, would be basically just pick off in a random direction, drive off for an hour or so when I was learning to drive. And so you just end up chatting a lot. So basically I learned to drive while talking to a passenger. And it seems that translates perfectly well to when your passenger seat is a camera. It just works out wonderfully, really. So I think that's sort of that's the only logical place I can come up with how it came so natural. That and the sort of putting that in combination with my sort of natural experience of sim racing, which has been to commentate over a lot of it, basically to a camera. When you put the two of those things together, it's just like, well, of course I was going to drive like that, essentially. With the commentary, with the pointing things out. Can't really like the fact that I intentionally put my hand in a position where I could be seen by the camera. That's just common sense, really. Come on now. You need to be a bit professional, don't we? But yeah, it's not like I went into the car going, I'm going to be entertaining, funny, whatever during this thing. I went into the car going to drive. And it turns out my natural way of driving, especially if you tell me, yeah, we can hear you back in the pits. It's like, of course I'm going to chat to you then. Because that's just how I've always been. It's how I learned to drive. I learned to drive going on long drives into the middle of nowhere, talking to a passenger. So you tell me there's a passenger there, I'm going to have a bit of a chat with them, pointing out things I see while we're driving. That's not saying the most chattiest person in the world, as Baghdad and Potato will attest to when you're driven around. I seem to be actually more chatty when I'm the driver than the passenger, which makes no sense at all. But yeah, whatever. So that's sort of where the pointing entertainment comes from. It's just, I'm not joking when I say that's how I drive, because that is how I've always driven. And that's, for one hand, it's fine. Because even when I had two hands appearing on the wheel, my right hand wasn't really doing any of the steering anyway. I essentially drove the entire thing with my left hand. Right hand just occasionally holding on in the turns to give the left hand a little bit of a break. But so that's just what it was. Which is cool. Yeah. And continuing on that point there about how it was similar to a sim race. It was shockingly similar to a sim race. Like Jem pointed out in the Discord during the race, brought up the point, and he really wasn't joking that the likes of oval racing and NASCAR and NR 2003, they shockingly well prepare you for this. It's not even funny because it's not even a joke. They actually really help with this. Had I never, I don't really have ever oval raced in Sims much at all. I could probably count my fingers the amount of oval race I've done in Sims. But even just that, or even just the fact that I haven't raced close quarters in Sims, a road or oval or whatever, it surprisingly works. Like, you'd be shocked how well they transfer over. That's it's the great debate of our time is how well can sim racing prepare for real racing. But as far as outright pace or anything like that, debate, jury's out. And I'll be honest, up until this race I was incredibly skeptical of how well it could translate. Like, which is odd for a sim racer like myself to be on that side, but I was really on that side of, yeah, it'll help a little. Oh, excellent sim racer doesn't immediately translate to good driver. That's all my opinion. But after this, I'm a bit more on the way of, no, Sims help a lot more than you think. Because Sim, I don't think would make me much faster, a whole lot faster. But just for dealing with being in packs of cars and around traffic, shockingly invaluable, because it just came natural. Helped. Now this race helps a lot, of course, because it's a lot slower speeds. So you don't have the physical effort that you would have in, say, a full-blown professional racing car, which is the main difference between sim racing and real racing. Also, you have to deal with being thrown around in a car. It's easy to have exact perfect lines when you're sitting in an office chair. It's harder when your office chair is being hurled around the track with you. But so in this race, since we were, as I said, for a lot of the race we were doing, like, our average speed for the race was 30 miles an hour, including pit stops. Average lap speeds were, like probably 45 miles an hour, just judging off what I was seeing on the speedo. 45, probably less. So you're not getting the physical effort being exerted on you is not so much that it will impair your driving. So that basically wasn't an issue. And a lot of the logic you could use as well would just be standard highway driving, because the speeds were not that incredibly high, and because the gaggles would end up just being like on a busy highway. So a lot of that could be applied as well. But no, sim racing was actually really useful coming into this race. So no, I'm a bit more puts me a bit more to the side of, no, sim racing is a legitimate tool for actual racing. Continuing on that physical effort point, because I say physical effort, as far as race car standards, was quite light. As I said, we weren't at incredibly high speeds. That being said, when you're constantly turning left like that for an hour at a time, that can take it out of you a little. You do feel it in your neck and your head, the neck collars that we were using. Basically, after doing that, even if they weren't required by the rules, I'd probably wear one. Not just for the safety aspect, of course, because if you crash, you really should have some sort of neck restraint. But just for the fact that basically you could lean on them and keep your head upright in the corners, because I would not like to see what my leg would have looked like without it, really, after all that turning. Even all that low speed turning, you feel it in your damn neck. As well as that, because we were, a stock interior, so stock seat, there's no side supports at all on a standard road car seat, especially for the light of the car we were driving. So your back ends up being twisted because of the forces pushing you to the right. My knee was, for me anyway, was always jammed against the transmission tunnel because I couldn't hold it straight up, because the forces would just keep forcing it out into the tunnel. So I was like, I just gave up and just left it there. A possible improvement for next year would be either wear a knee pad, like Magni did actually, I think good effect, or just put some foam on the inside of the tunnel and just accept that your leg is going to rest against the tunnel because of all the left turning, and just get on with it, which is possible with our style of driving, because basically style of driving was just, go to quarter throttle, lift off into the turn, quarter throttle out of the turn, lift off. So there wasn't much movement at all in the pedals, so you get away with just essentially leaving your leg rest against the tunnel. It was all really in the mental effort. That was the only bit that got you, which calmed down at the end of the race as the field spread out. Basically everything just calmed, just chilled basically. So the mental effort was a lot easier because it wasn't as intense. The first two stints were fucking intense though. The first stint especially. Second stint was a bit better because you're a bit more used to how things were going, and the field was slightly thinned out a bit more. But my first stint, which was about an hour and a bit in, that was intense. That was shockingly intense. I know I said I was calm emotionally, but physically after it, I was just fucked. I didn't get up for like half an hour. After I got up. it was way way harder than I thought it was going to be. Like, when I was in the car, I wasn't really tired or exhausted at all. I think it was just the adrenaline just kept me going through it during my first stint. But once I got out and basically stopped driving, I just collapsed into a camping chair with a bottle of water and I was just stayed there for a while. For basically the entire next stint, I just sat there. I was lightheaded, I was thirsty. The thing is, it wasn't really from the physical effort, it was purely from the mental effort of your first race stint, and with it being as busy a stint as that was. It just shockingly took it out of me. In a previous life, I'm a black belt, and so I've been in several competitions and fights like that, and there have been competitive fights that I've walked out of the ring in better condition than I did out of that car. You know? Which should not be the way at all, because as I said, it wasn't really a physical effort. It was all mental. I think is in Taekwondo, it's mental and physical as well, because you have to think a lot about as you fight, and then obviously the physical exertion of fighting. But there was fights I walked out of in better condition than I walked out of that car the first stint, which shocked me really. You don't because you're completely oblivious to it when you're in the car. In the car, all I felt in the car was just a little bit thirsty. That was it. But then when I get out, basically it all just hits you, and good thing was it was only really for that stint, whereas the fatigue after driving was really an issue. After that, basically you just got used to it. Basically you for the first stint to be like, this is how it works, you'll do better next time, and it did. Especially the last stints, as I said, they were a lot calmer, so the mental effort was a lot less. Second stint, even though it was kind of as hectic, sort of a case of, right, I've done this once before, I can do it again, and I can do it better, and you do it better. You just basically just get used to it, and you just get on with it. So as long as the physical effort doesn't really happen, you'll be fine, which didn't really happen because we didn't get hot in the car. It wasn't a hot weekend for the race. The nights actually got fucking cold, really. At nights I turned the heater on in the car. So I actually had the heater going in the car, which again, it may be being used as a race car, but this is still a street car. It still has a working heater, so I'm going to use the damn thing. And not that heat was an issue at all for engine-wise, because it didn't even get close to being hot. It's remarkably reliable. So, yeah, it was just great as far as that was concerned. Yeah, so basically the first two stints were a bit of madness, a bit of craziness, and chilled out after there. Because after that we got to the tyre situation. We sort of generally underestimated, as it looked like everyone underestimated how hard the tyres were going to be used in this race. Possibly because we didn't expect the race to be as fast as it was. But yeah, we were just burning tyres the first two stints. We were able to sort of rotate them around the car, put the front wheels on the rear and the rear on the front and that sort of thing. That helped us a lot, but we still had to put 3 new tyres on. 2 for punctures and 1 because it was just fucked. The fucked one was after a potatoes incident, which was an unfortunate one that he beat himself up about, it seemed. Which, he just took it all on himself with his spin with the wall. But I don't agree with that at all. I don't think anyone else actually agrees with it, because I don't think he had a proper look at the tyre that was on his right front when he did it, because he essentially in his stint he was at the end of those sets of tyres, and it was getting more understeery, and he then went out on some marbles out turn 4 and did a bit of a spin and clipped the wall. And he took that on himself, but I don't think he properly saw the tyres that we took off that. Like, his tyre was in cords. There was nothing left. The fact that he went that long on those tyres, fuck me. Jesus Christ, with the way he was driving as well. How he was able to do that on those tyres, like madness. Yes, you spun, but still the fact that you had a clip with the wall and did as little damage as you did. Like, yes, you knocked the bumpers up around a little, but it was fine. Like, mechanically, there was no damage to the car. Mechanically. We didn't even have to really do anything about those bumpers for another few hours, when eventually we did tape them down and use some bungee cords to hold it back up. But again, that was not for a few hours that we even had to do that. The only thing that came out of this was that we lost our transponder. Right. All this also happened when I was asleep. So, the story with the transponder is, when in the whole madness to start the race and trying to get transponders to work, a track official came over to us and put our transponder on. He'd originally attached it, to a solid piece of chassis because that's where you fix transponders to. But track official came, it was orientated wrong, and sort of running out of patience, he just attached it to the rear bumper. I was the only driver on the grid. I think the only two people who saw this happen was me and Kurt. Kurt left the track about 11 or 10 o'clock at night, maybe a little later, I'm not sure. And I was asleep when this incident happened with the rear bumper. I was asleep in the truck. So I wouldn't see or learn what would happen until about at least an hour later, if not a little more. I was woken up when Jim's had his puncture overnight. Basically, it felt like I just managed to get to sleep. I think I went to the truck after my third stint. I just went to the rear bench of the truck, tried to get some sleep. Fucking damn cold. And I was too tall. Tallness was having its disadvantage at that point in time. But I think I got like 2 hours sleep. 3 maybe. But anyway, in any case, I got woken up at around 5ish. When James came in with his puncture, and basically it was sort of an all hands on deck, get it fixed. I wasn't really that useful because I was still waking up and not really sure where I was and what was going on. And so by the time I figured out what the hell was going on, everything was sort of fixed anyway, and the car went out again. But anyway, while sort of waiting around then for my stint, which wouldn't be too long, eating a burger for early breakfast, I got caught up on what happened. But even then, I didn't really click that we might have a problem with the transponder, even having seen the car. I only sort of figured out that, we might not have a transponder anymore when I went onto the track for my own stint. I'm kicking myself for this, that I didn't come in early when I thought about this, but it was dark, obviously, at this point. And I was just watching the cars in front of me, and just noting all the ones that had little green LED lights under them, which are the transponders. And then noticing ones that didn't have these lights. And started noting, they're the ones that don't have any bumper left. That's probably where the transponder went. Then I clicked that I could see out of the left mirror that our bumper was flying off, flying about in the air, as it was after the hit. And so then, as that moment, I was, that's where our transponder was, wasn't it? Yeah. Probably should look at that when I pitched. Still fucking stupid that I didn't just pit right there and then. It would have cost us nothing to literally come in, have a quick look, drive back out, and it cost us everything if we just continue, because we're achieving nothing by just driving around with no transponder, essentially. So at the end of my stint, 40 minutes later, after this realization, I come in, immediately walked out to the back and see, lo and behold, there's no transponder anymore, because the bumper is attached to is, about 16 different angles than where I should be. So our transponder is somewhere in the spectator car park off turn 4. So at that point, Powers goes down to the tech shack and gets us a new transponder. And not sure how that was actually dealt with financially, because we should have paid $200 for losing the first transponder, but I'm not sure how that worked out. We should have won enough money with our final position to cover that, but yeah, so Powers then went and got a transponder. We fixed it to the A-arm this time, something solid, so it won't fuck off. Now that we know the proper way that the transponder should be orientated. I went it off and we finished the race on that transponder, but it still fucking pissed me off that we lost all that time, essentially, because we had a damn perfect race. We had no major pit stops. Our longest pit stop was the one to fucking fix the transponder. We had no other issues at all. We just kept going, just pounding laps around. We had 2 punctures and a few tire changes, but Jesus Christ, looking at some of the other cars who were going through the same amount of tires we were going through an hour. There's guys around us that literally they went through periods where they pitted like every 10 minutes because they blew another tire or something else blew up. The 81 across from us, like, they had no alternator, so they had to pit every time their battery ran out. It's like, this is what we were racing against. So to have a perfect race like we had would have been, fuck me. It's just the point that we'll never know how many laps we could have done, or what we actually did, to be more accurate. Because we lost, essentially it's like we had a 2-hour problem somewhere in the race. That's what the timing will eventually tell us. Because I don't think from the results that we did get those laps back. Now there was some protests and some things we sorted out with the results, but I don't think that was it. That was one of them. I don't think we did get our laps back. They just lost to the end of time now, essentially. It's fucking annoying. Yeah, because I said, because we didn't fit it, so it's not our fault, really. It's not our fault that when you give us a transponder, when we go to the grid and are like, right, attach this while you wait for the green flag on the grid. That's not how things work. And this is the first time we've seen the damn transponders. We're not told till about half an hour later the proper way to orientate them, and oh shit, no wonder it didn't work the first 2 times we went over the timing beam, because you didn't tell us how to attach it properly. And then essentially they run out of patience with you for not attaching it properly by doing it themselves. And then they do it in a way that means, well, of course it's going to fucking fall off. You attach with 2 zip ties to a fucking plastic bumper. It's going to fuck off. Yeah. So that's the fact that the only 2 people then in our team who knew where it was were not there when the incident happened, so they wouldn't be able to, no one can be blamed for it. It's not anyone's fault that no one thought of the transponder, because no one, except for the guy who was asleep in the truck, knew where the transponder was attached to. Again, because we only got the transponder on the grid. Had we been given it, say, the day before when we were in the pits, at least then there's a chance that everyone would have seen it get fixed and would know exactly where it was. So that then when we get damage to that area, it can be immediately checked in the next stop. Is the transponder still there? Because I'm not doubting that when the incident did happen with the bumper that it was looked at. Of course the air was looked at. Of course you look there for damage. But if you don't know the transponder usually lives there, you're not going to notice if it's missing. So it's not anyone could do about that. Really hope for next year that whole thing is dealt differently. Either give us better instructions about what transponder you're using so we can fit a bag to the rear of the car in a secure position beforehand, or just give us the damn transponders, say when we pass tech. Just give us a transponder then, how it's fitted. Then in tech you can check if it's orientated properly, perhaps let us drive it out onto the track, slowly. No, we're not asking for a practice session. Just literally let us drive it over the line. Hell, even have an official drive it over the line, just do what I want with it, really. To prove it works, then we save all the fucking about when we're trying to start the race. Green doesn't get delayed. Everyone's transponder should then be securely fastened. If not securely fastened, at least it's the team's fault then, because they had a decent chance to attach it, and if they can't make it work, that's their problem essentially. Not going to get on about that. So there was a criticism event. That's probably my main one, is concerning that. Really, other than that, I really liked it. It was really just a great event, and just a great adventure. It's probably one of the few true adventures I've had, because up to this point, so my standard for sort of crazy idea has really been nothing more than a glorified backpacker trip of some sort. But this was like a genuine adventure, going to the other side of the world to do something that's ludicrously stupid, and it was great. That's just great. Yeah, and I also find it hard then as well to properly thank people for the whole thing. It's sort of a flaw in myself that I can't really thank people properly for things. The same way of getting gifts or things like that. I don't do it well. I know I don't do it well. I'm just disappointed about that, because I'm really thankful that this whole thing could have even happened. And then not only this whole thing, just that we've just done so well. As I said earlier, Cammy, Jim's mom, just treated us so well. There was the hotel, there was the food. Then when we got to the track, she basically gave up her car and converted the back of it into a bed for the team, not for herself, for the team, for the drivers. Which I believe Powers and Magnet used it to good effect, and they loved it. I didn't personally use it because really during the race couldn't actually pull myself from the race, but still, it's that's just so thoughtful and generous of the whole thing. Not to mind, and that's where we even get onto the other things, such as sourcing tires and things like that for the car as well. It's that's just so nice. And then speaking of the car, we can't not mention Brian, who did so much work to help prep the car. He kept it in his garage for a few months. Did a lot of work with gyms to prep it, to fix it up, to make sure it was in good condition, and then he does that, and then acts as our crew chief then for the entire race. I think he was only sort of missing in action and asleep for maybe an hour and a half during the entire race. He was damn committed, like shockingly committed to the whole thing. Yeah, and the great thing as well is that he was very much enjoying the whole thing. He loved it. It's good. He wasn't doing it sort of as a burden, right? He just loved what he was doing. At least that's the impression I got, is that he just loved it. And we really loved what he was doing as well. Like, I could not have asked for a better crew chief. The fact that we had someone as committed as he was to just keeping the car going, keeping the team going, and getting it done, that's just fantastic, really. And then the other guys as well. Kurt was invaluable at the start. Race morning of getting our problems fixed and getting to the track, and then Nick showed up later to help with the pit stops and things like that. Ripping the exhaust off, ripping a hot exhaust off. He had gloves, to be fair, but he, be willing to just get under the car and rip a hot exhaust off because it was hanging down. Things like that. They're just great, and just took a lot of it off the drivers. Basically, it was all designed to make it as easy and fun and enjoyable for us as possible. Which I don't think I properly express how thankful I am at that, because with gyms and all them, essentially they handled basically all the stressful organising part of this whole event. Basically, letting the four of us that show up week of. Just basically have a good time. They just took all this stress and organisation off us, because they all did such hard work to make this whole thing happen. Like, James was visibly fucking stressed. I don't know how much he wants to let on about how stressed he was leading up to the race. But yeah, just just the fact that what he did to make this whole thing happen was just so incredible. All he did, and then he had to go on top of that. He had to go fucking fix the track's timing system as well. As if he didn't have enough things to do. He's running a race team in his first race, and then he has to go fix the track shit on top of that. I do hope he got properly rewarded for all of that. But yeah, it's just basically people are just so nice, so generous. On that as well, so there's the atmosphere of the event in general. I just really loved it. I didn't doubt it, but I'm just glad to see that the racing sort of culture and atmosphere is universal. Because the best of races to race at are more or less the ones like that, where everyone is just nice. You got a bit of camaraderie amongst all the competitors. Everyone's helping everyone. No one's being nasty. No one's stuck up their ass. Being pricks about anything, taking it super seriously or anything like that. Everyone's just there to have fun, and everyone's just there to race. Let's get on with it. There's a race to be raced, and we're all in this together and all that sort of thing. That's what I love. You get that in like any sort of clubman, grassroots, amateur racing over here, but you sort of feel that you lose it at like professional events and things like that. When the stakes are higher, you end up sort of losing that aspect of the whole thing. But yeah, basically any race that I can continue to do where that has that atmosphere, it's just great. And even just sort of then the endurance race aspect of it, because I love endurance racing. I love to watch endurance racing. And the pits can often be as entertaining as the actual race on track, especially in this case. Just sitting around the night in our pit space, just watching all the teams around us fix up their beat up cars and getting them back on the track somehow or another, or working away on them, keeping them going. It's just such great to see. We actually couldn't really we couldn't contribute much to this because our race went too smoothly. We didn't have any heroic fixes or anything like that to get us to the race, unlike literally the two cars next to us and in front of us. The car next to us, which had the shopping cart on top of its roof and the doll hanging off it, they put in a damn good effort. They had to replace a front corner, had too many punctures, and then in the last half hour of the race they're overheating, and they basically have to rebuild their cooling system out of, I don't even know how they put it together, but they got it back and ran it into the pits, and then did a big fuck off burn off at the end of the race, which is glorious. Really good effort. Really good effort. I really liked those guys. Like, I had no problem. There wasn't really anyone we had any problems with. The only people we had problems with were certain drivers. But again, this thing, we're not going to get too mad. We're not going to go down to the pit stand and start starting shit. It wasn't that sort of event. No, which again, really surprising, especially with the stereotype we get of American oval racing. That no, everyone was calm and civilized. Didn't really hear anyone going up and getting mad or anything like that. Driving standard was pretty good overall, so there wasn't really much to get mad about. As I said, there was only a handful of crazy drivers in the field, so it just depended on if they're in or not. And it was not, and to be honest, nothing was really worth getting fighty over or getting mad at anyone. So this is great. I just love those events where you show up in the paddock and it's like instantly everyone's friends, basically. I'm not a sociable guy. I'm far from a sociable guy, but I really sort of appreciate that sort of atmosphere of an event. It's just great, which is unfortunately got me thinking of, how long can this last, basically? Not in general, just for me personally, because the last 12 months have been incredible, racing-wise for me personally. I've been to some really cool professional events. I've gotten involved in racing myself. This was obviously the first race as a driver, but I was involved as a mechanic racing. It's just it's been fun. It's more or less exactly how I want to spend my life. More or less. Just the fun of it and just the adventures and all of that. It was a similar thing when we did the Eep rally in June. That was a proper adventure. About 12 of us hopping in some cars and some vans, driving off to Belgium, going and doing a rally for a week. Living in in some guy's garage. Just generally having a good time, doing a rally, finishing 14th out of 60 cars, whatever the fuck it was. It was just generally a good time. And again, as was this, it's just continued. I sort of keep raising the fucking bar of what I can, of basically how much fun I can have at a track. And it just keeps getting better. I really don't want it to end. It's become a thing over the last few months. I sort of a joke. Is that when I post about these things and talk about these stories, that someone will comment, "I want to be NCW when I grow up." And sometimes I reply with, "Me too." I'm not joking when I do that. I genuinely want to be NCW when I grow up. I'm only 20. For the foreseeable future, I got like 12 months of this sort of life left. And even then it gets hairy at the end. It gets hairy for a lot of it. I'm in my final year of my degree. Which is going to be hell. Let's not make any bones about it. It's going to be shit. It always is shit. It's awful. I don't really like school to start with. And this year is only promises to be hell. On top of that hell then, is that when you finish there, you have to go into the real world and do shit. Because I already fucking, sort of skim my way through it badly in the first place. I don't often talk about things like this, but I'm incredibly fucking lucky being able to do what I'm doing. So lucky that I've been able to go this far through my life without really any responsibilities or worries or things like that. I'm just sort of been handed a lot of things and just maybe get on with it. Just generally being lucky in general. Just having plain luck. Not to really have much misfortune in my life at all, or really ever had hard times or anything like that. And the scary thing is that by this time next year, it's going to be all on me to keep that going. I don't know how possible that is. really was a kick in the teeth not to get a placement, because that was sort of all on me. It's like, this is your chance to go do something completely by yourself, to sort yourself out, to set you up, and I fucked it. So yeah, it's just like, right, now I have to do it for real this time. There's no, you can get a second chance for not getting a placement. You just go on and continue a university degree. That's fine. Life goes on then. How does life go on then if you fuck up after that? I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'll get some sort of degree at the end of this. I'm not worried of dropping out or failing like that. I'm just worried what happens then. Yeah, I got this piece of paper. Then what do I do with it? Where do I end up? What do I do? Do I end up where I want to go? Chances are you have exactly zero chance of ending up where you want to go. Like I'd be incredibly lucky if I end up working for a company that actually races within like the next 3 years. I would consider that a really big success. Not to mind if I actually get to work trackside or anything like that. I generally don't see myself actually being able to do that professionally, which makes me not want to fuck this up. Fuck up the next year I have of essentially being able to sort of live the dream of racing. I don't want to fuck it up. Especially don't want to fuck it up because I need to get about 500 quid for next year so I can do this damn race again. Because as far as I see for the foreseeable future, this could be my one shot a year. It could just have my one shot a year of going to a racetrack and having fun. If it is my chance of going to a racetrack to compete at all. I don't want to mess it up. I want to keep this going. So basically, yeah, I'm going to try my damned hardest to make sure I can get to this race next year. I really hope I do. And I really hope I just want to keep doing this. If anything, by having the opportunity to do this race, say, once a year, it stops me from doing something really stupid like, actually buying a race car and racing at the local track. Which would be incredibly fun. A really amazing thing to do. It would be also incredibly stupid thing to do when I don't even have an actual car. But I can see myself putting myself in a position where I'll buy a race car before I buy an actual car. And that would be stupid. That would be really, really stupid. I really shouldn't do that. Because racing's hard. And a lot of it sucks. But the bit that doesn't suck is so good it makes up for all the bits that suck. So yeah, this really went off the edge, off the tracks. I don't even know where the fuck we're going now at this point, but I don't know. TLDR, I want to be NCW when I grow up. I want to keep doing things like this. I want to be able to just have fun in life. I don't want to have to do a miserable office job, or anything like that, where, you're just worried about this, worried about that, just having responsibilities and stress and shit like that, and basically your life in the end is just sort of meaningless and there's no point. I don't want that. That would really annoy me. Even if I'm doing well financially or career wise or anything like this, it's just basically if it's all for nothing, it's sort of a bit pointless, isn't it? Yeah. Sure, after graduation, there's a shit ton of engineering jobs out there. Shit ton of things I could do for myself, but to be honest, if stacking shelves in Aldi means I can have fun, I'll stack shelves in Aldi. So, that's just where I stand. And this became a lot more, as I said, it sort of went off the edge and became a lot more deep thinking than it really should have been. And possibly a little bit of a downer for what really shouldn't be a downer, because that week was fucking awesome. That was an amazing week. That was an amazing race to do. Amazing thing to do. Just the fact that it's like, holy shit, I've raced a 24-hour race. And we finished. It was amazing. And then, just doing that is so amazing. Then you add in the fact that it was essentially a week spent having fun with your friends. I don't know. I just can't I don't have the vocabulary to properly do it justice in describing what it's like, but it was just fun. Just such cool, amazing fun. I don't have the words for it. It was just so great. And I said, I never can properly thank people because I just don't do it right. But I'm just so thankful for everyone who made a who made it possible. All the Jim's family that support us. Like the fact that so many of them just came to the race just to watch and support us and wave us on and cheer us on, and it's so great. And everyone at the track for being as friendly and welcoming as they were. For Potato, Magnet, and Powers to come along with this crazy idea, be awesome friends that they are, and for Jim's to have had the mad idea to do this whole thing in the first place and put it all together and get it going. It's just an amazing race. I'm circling here. I'm delaying. It's been an hour and 20 minutes or some shit like that. So that's enough. I don't even know what I'm going to put in the background of this. I probably don't even have enough footage of anything to shove in the back. So fuck knows why you've watched this, but this was not meant to be about this. So anyway, thanks for listening to this whole thing. Should be a video within the next week of the final day of the trip, when me and Bagnet went to Indianapolis. That should be it from the race. As for future content on the channel, fuck knows. PRL started up again. I might do that a bit sometimes. I really should play the piano more. I have been playing the piano, just haven't gotten anything to a state that could be recorded. So maybe that will happen within the next month or so. Could do with a damn distraction from uni. So yeah, anyway, that's where we stand. Thank you for somehow making it to the end of this, and for listening to most of it. Well, yeah, see you whenever.